Thanks so much for clicking. To my returning family, the Visionaries, thank you for your continuous love and support. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Please feel at home. If you enjoy my content, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button and please don't forget to like and share. Well, hopefully we got this live figured out now and let's get to it. I thought we'd have a conversation about something I'm very passionate about. That's inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility, also known as IDEA. And I'm an IDEA consultant and specialist. This is my life's work. And my goal is to ensure that every person across the globe embraces inclusion. Wouldn't that be a beautiful world? But I can tell you it takes a lot of work. So I thought we'd break down what each of these were, talk a little bit about some examples in our everyday lives, and have a conversation. So I encourage you to take some time to drop comment and below. Let me know where you're coming in from. And definitely, if you have any questions or stories you want to share on any of these topics, please feel free to do just that. So let's get to it. Inclusion. Well, inclusion is where every person, despite their background, race, gender, age, ability, or sexual orientation, is included at the table. They have a say in anything they want, as well as they have opportunities that are equal for all. Doesn't that sound like a beautiful thing? Unfortunately, we're far from there in the world right now. Inclusion is a dream. It's happening in some places, but really, truly, we have a lot of work to do. And that's why I'm here, because I want us to have these conversations and help people feel included. Think of it as if you go to a party and you're on the guest list. You attend the party, but nobody greets you. Nobody has a conversation with you. Nobody shares their food. What? That would be very uncomfortable, wouldn't it? Well, think of this as inclusion in schools, in the workplace, in our communities. When somebody feels excluded, they tend not to participate fully. They tend to shy away and go into themselves. But if they're being listened to, feeling heard, seen, and valued just as they are, they're going to participate. They're going to give their all and do whatever it takes to be part of the solution. This is the goal. Definitely in schools for kids, teenagers, and adults going to university, but also at work in the workplace. Obviously, every person that's part of the team wants to feel like they're part of the solution, as well as in our communities. We have residents, citizens, but we also have those counselors, the mayor, and whoever else is in our communities. Perhaps it's an organization and you have leaders and members. All of these people want to feel part of family. Similar to our YouTube channel here, I want all of you to feel part of the family and feel included in the content that I share. That's why I love when you drop comments and we have a conversation. And that's why I'm trying to learn how to do these lives so we can do just that. So inclusion, I'm going to give you some examples and I'm going to base it here in Canada to start, but then I'm also going to share with some examples from across the globe. In our schools in Canada, it's diverse. We have children from all different backgrounds. People born in Canada who are white. We have kids that have immigrated from other countries that may be Black or also from Indian backgrounds, Latino backgrounds, very diverse cultures. And it's wonderful because all of these children bring different lived experiences to it. And you put them all in a classroom and they're there to learn. Now, the curriculum is based on a Canadian curriculum, which may not always suit the needs of all of these students. So it is the responsibility of the educator to accommodate teaching the lessons, but so that every student feels included. So that's about diving deep and doing your own research as an educator. And I'm an educator, so I can speak passionately about this to ensure that when you're teaching a topic, whether it's history, social sciences, even math and science, that every student in that class connects with you. That's why you use examples from different experiences, different lived experiences, and get them to do things that they're participating fully. I love doing actual presentation and actually hands-on activities to ensure that they feel like they're part of the learning experiences. In school, also that's talking about administrators, principals, ministers as education, as well as the trustees. That's in Canada. And all of these people have an impact. But then, of course, parents have an impact. Now, we also have to remember in Canada, like other places in the world, there's privilege. Some people have more than others, whether that's economic, culturally, or even just in rights. But everybody needs to be part of the solution, part of the conversation. And we have to listen to each and every child in that school. And as we get older in high schools and in universities and colleges, this gets a little bit easier because obviously students have a mind of their own. So they have their own belief systems and they'll start to share their ideas. But when children come to schools, they're innocent, they're young, unless their parents have shared their belief systems so much so that they're a little bit let's say, jaded or perhaps have misinformation. But let's assume in this situation that the kids are innocent. They play with all the children together because they're their friends. It doesn't matter what color their skin is, if they're a boy or a girl. It doesn't matter what their family structure is, if they have money or not. They are their friends and they have fun together. They play innocently because they haven't had that development of belief systems yet. The jadedness is not there. So when the kids come to an environment like a school, they should have the parents should have the expectations that they're going to be educated equally. And this is something that we have to work on. And a lot of the work I do is working with educators to ensure that this happens, that they ensure that they're sharing the different learning styles with the children. They're having all of them understand because some kids may learn visually, some may be auditory, some may be kinesthetic. All those children have to learn differently. And again, this is all about inclusion because we need to understand how they fit. Now, if we look at the workplace, every employee comes to a company, gets a job, and they want to be included in the team, in the work that they do, but they also want to be seen for their talents and their abilities. They got the job because they're qualified. So now they want to contribute. So when it comes to meetings, they have to be listened to. They have to be called upon to share their ideas and thoughts, to come up with solutions. And of course, we have to work collaboratively. So it's the role of the managers, the supervisors, to ensure that every employee is felt, heard, seen, and valued. Once that happens, you'll notice productivity of the teams will go through the roof. They'll work collaboratively together and come up with creative and innovative solutions. This is awesome when a team is inclusive. But again, it takes time, effort, and responsibility of the company, the managers, and supervisors to ensure that this happens. So let's look at diversity. Our world is diverse. We have so many people with different lived experiences. Again, race, background, culture, gender, age, experience, ability, and sexual orientation. Everybody has a different story to share. Their lived experiences vary. And even groups of people, let's just say women, may have very different lived experiences. So we have to listen to everybody's lived experiences. And this is why I love diversity, because I get to educate myself and learn from other people. I love listening to people's lived experiences because it's stuff that I may not know. I can share my own lived experiences, but I know it's going to be different than everybody else's. This is where active listening and taking time is essential, again, in schools, workplaces, and in the community. Why is it that diversity, although relevant and all the time around, is not necessarily being focused on? We've been having this conversation about diversity, equity, and inclusion for decades, but we're still talking about it because people aren't taking it seriously. They think it doesn't apply to them, or it's not relevant, or they don't care. And this is where we need to change the narrative. We need to make sure we're having conversations so people see the value in how culture as well as in our community. Opportunity to access and making sure that over the fence. But the other two are struggling to see that baseball game over the fence. But the young boys get creative and they find some boxes and they pull the boxes over. So the adolescent kid, let's say, only needs one box to see over that fence. So he now has equal access. But the little guy, he's really, really small, short. He doesn't see still. So he needs to pull one box, stands up. No, that's not going to do. Pulls the next box, puts it on top of the first one. And now he can see over the fence. And all three of them have equal access to watch that baseball game. That's equity. Now, why is it that we don't have equity in our workplaces or in the schools? Again, because people aren't taking the time to understand people's lived experiences. Height is an easy way to look at something and see something face value. You can see somebody's tall and they can see over the fence. The shorter ones can't. That's easy to see. But when you don't see something physical and it's inside, whether that's that lived experience or perhaps a disability, a different cultural belief, whatever it might be, unless you have these conversations that are candid and approach it from a place of respect, curiosity, and wanting to learn, we won't have any equality or equity in this world. So we need to take the time to have these conversations. And then, of course, accessibility. Now, when people hear accessibility, they automatically think about disability. And that's part of it, but that's not it at all. Accessibility, actually, if you look at the definition, is access to equal opportunities, resources, work, and access to different environments, whether it's a building or a certain setting. Nothing about disability, but everybody has equal access. So we will talk about disability and accessibility in 1 minute, but accessibility could be something as simple as ensuring your company has accessibility to get there. So transportation, is it near a bus stop or a subway system? Is there parking for people that drive? Does it have a ramp for those people in wheelchairs? Does it have an elevator for people that don't want to do the stairs? Access means many different things. As far as information and knowledge, are all of the documentations for your company accessible? Do they have them in different formats, whether it's large print, electronic, digital, or even in different languages? Ensuring accessibility allows people to participate fully is a key ingredient to make sure that we have this conversation and that inclusion is achieved. Now, for those people with disabilities, whether it's a visual disability or an invisible disability, so you possibly could have a physical disability, somebody who's blind or hard of hearing, somebody that has an intellectual or developmental disability. All of these individuals have to have accommodations to help them have that equal playing ground. And this is all essential because, again, in order for them to feel fully included in our party or in the workplace or schools, they need to have these accommodations. It's not special treatment, it's just ensuring that that level playing ground is level. So now we've talked about what IDEA actually is all about. And again, this is a conversation we could go on for hours and hours and hours about. But I'm just doing a very high level conversation to start us off. But I want us to look across the globe. Our world is diverse. In every country, there's people from different backgrounds and races. Everybody has different lived experiences. Are all of our countries inclusive? Definitely not. And it's not just based on the color of our skin, our belief systems, our cultural beliefs, our sexual orientations, or genders. Every country has a set of historical, systemic racism, systemic cultural belief systems, as well as the way that the world is made of. And that's policies and procedures. So we need to understand all of these for each and every country before we can even work towards diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because I can go to a different country and learn and be educated by the people of that country. But am I being educated correctly by accurate history or by somebody's belief systems? I can tell you here in North America, again, I'm only speaking from my own personal lived experience. In school, I was taught about the history of Europeans, of Canadians, but not even the accurate history. I didn't know a lot about the Indigenous people here in Canada and how their land and the children were taken away from them by others that were settlers when we were colonized so many years ago. Because in our history lessons, they don't talk about that. It was only in the recent years that we started to talk about reconciliation and inclusion for Indigenous people here in Canada. And we have a lot of work to still get that done because it is just coming to light. But also, I never heard about racism or segregation here in Canada My goodness, not at all. That wasn't taught in schools. So this is why when we go to whatever country it is, we need to understand the history, the systemic racism, the way the systems have developed over generations, and understand the background. So we need to educate ourselves. We need to take time. And we shouldn't expect people from that lived experience to be educating us. We need to do our own education, and that's really important. So many times I've heard, oh, but you're a white woman. Why are you talking about racism? Why are you talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion? And they have every right to ask that question. But the reality is, I've gone and educated myself. I've trained. I've learned about different lived experiences. I've also will be the first to say I don't know everything, and I'm still continuously learning. But for me, it's important to have these conversations and learn from a respectful way. I'm not asking for you to educate me on everything about race and racism, but I'd love to hear your lived experiences. My husband, in case you didn't know, is a Black man from Africa, and he has taught me so much about race and racism. So not only have I educated myself through courses and understandings and listening to people's lived experiences, but he's also educated me a lot about the history in Africa, as well as how racism hits across the globe. But I've done a lot of reading, a lot of books on race, racism, equity, diversity, and inclusion, and accessibility, of course, because as an educator, I'm going to be dealing with different students from various backgrounds. As we have this conversation, I'd love you to take a second, drop in the comments where you're coming from, your background, a little bit about yourself, and anything you want to share about inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. Again, we all learn and grow from each other's lived experiences. So please take the time to do that. And let's just carry on this conversation. It is one that we can dive into over and over again because I'll tell you, it is a never ending conversation because we have to continuously educate ourselves. If you look at what's going on in the world right now, all the war and conflict in different places across the globe, idea is part of that because diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion play a vital part in politics, in understanding what the needs of the people are in each and every country. And unless people are willing to do the work and educate themselves, we have conflict. This is how it happens because we're ignorant. We don't want to take the time to have these conversations. We don't want to listen to one another. We want to think our way is the right way. And that's not always the truth. It is incredible to me to watch what's happening in the world as history repeats itself. You think after generations of war and horror and tragedies that are happening, that we would be seeing and watching, going, I remember this happening in history before. What did we not learn? Let's educate. Let's have conversation. How can we educate and move forward instead of repeating history? It's impossible to do this alone. We need to collaborate together. We need to work together collectively to move forward. And all the senseless killing in the world right now could have been prevented if only people would stop and listen and have conversations from a place of respect, dignity, and understanding. But it's not happening. I'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas. Please, let's have a conversation. Drop them below and let's discuss.